Hello, Haven families. Thanks for joining me for just a little bit. I wanted to give you a precursor to what our conferences would look like. In addition to the agenda that you got, I wanted to give you just a little bit of things that I think probably you either want to know or you would have thought to ask at our conference. To save us some time, then during our conference, I wanted to deliver these things to you now so that you at least have a heads up. So that's why you're here. First things first is I want to let you know that I do not know what that transition is going to look like when we eventually go back into the building. I know it's scheduled for November, but I don't know exactly what that's going to look like, so I can't really help you there. In terms of grading, the district has put out as much as an equitable system as possible, I suppose, in terms of making it such that there really are no late penalties for work within 2 weeks of an assignment, right? But I've gone even a step further, thinking during our remote learning, I would like to just not have any late penalties right now. Of course, everyone's in different situations, and this, I hope, allows for any missing assignments to have the hope that they can be turned in for full credit, provided they have all the required criteria. So really the only deadline is the end of term, which is coming up in November. That said, my grades are weighted into 3 categories: assignments, assessments, and performance. In these 3 categories, I put our assignments into, right? So anything that we're doing in class, or Monday's asynchronous assignments or whatever, all that stuff goes in the assignment category, and it's actually weighted 50% of the entire overall grade. So every point that goes in there weighs double any other point in performance or assessments. The performance right now is all about showing up. It's Zoom protocol. It's following our rules of engagement so that we can be as human to each other as possible, to build a relationship, to try to follow along what we're trying to do and attempting to understand things, right? So a lot of it has to do with showing up. The assessment category is the other 25%. We haven't really had what are called summative tests, right? These sort of what you might think of as a formal test yet, but we will. And my tests tend to be quite difficult, right? For lots of reasons. It's a training ground right now for 8th grade to build a bridge between thinking like a child to thinking more like a sub-adult. And in that building of the bridge, I want kids to start learning how to handle hard tests. So we treat them like events, right? We train for them, we analyze them before we take one, right? And these will come sparingly throughout our time together. The other thing that I want to talk about is the actual sort of experience of being a digital student, right? And my kids and I always talk about and when I say my kids, I mean yours. My kids are in college, so they're not around. But that's not the point. The point is that since day one, we have discussed the true nature of what it means to be successful, right? And we've discussed it from a scientific point of view. And what has been determined by science is that grit and growth mindset are these 2 factors, when fused together, build the potential to succeed no matter who you are. And your North Stars can tell you all about the things that we've looked at. And I've included in the agenda from last week, or just this last weekend, a link to the video that Angela Duckworth did on TED Talk. So you can check it out, but that's the same video that your North Stars have seen. But the point is that grit and growth mindset mean that we are accepting the challenges that are in front of us, and we also will lean into them knowing that sometimes we're going to fail, but failure is not permanent. It is a temporary condition, and if we can just push through, we'll make it, right? Right now is a testing ground for that. Kids have absolute, I would say almost carte blanche in what's called ghosting me. In any class, they can do this. They click the little thing, their icon comes up, but they don't really show up, if you know what I mean. They don't show themselves on the camera, and they are not checking in when, for example, I'm asking, hey, Can you check in for me, either chat or verbally? And they won't do it because they've become accustomed to just ghosting classes. Parents may not know this. They may think their kids are attending classes, but we have a number of kids who are ghosting most or all of some of their classes, and they're cherry picking them. And I think it points to the fact that under these conditions, normally I and my team of teachers would have some oversight over this. We would be able to structure things and help kids through some of this stuff, but we don't have that other than reminders through emails, other than cueing kids on the screen if they show up, or chatting to them in their Google Classroom. We don't have that oversight. You do. And I know it's unfair, and I know it's hard because people are working and they're trying to still be whatever jobs you are doing or whatever responsibilities you're doing, and now you have this extra one. And I know it sucks. But it's temporary. And I want to help. I cannot help, though, unless students and families are reaching out to us. Any teacher, doesn't matter. If we don't know your circumstances, we can't start to problem solve. If it's radio silence and kids are starting to tank, or not starting to, or not showing up, or not doing any of that, we are virtually powerless right now to help without you reaching out to us. So this is me reaching out to you to let you know of all these things that I would want to say if we were speaking, that I'd want to communicate to you, make sure you understand where I'm coming from and the gravity of this situation. 8th grade is an important year. It is not one to blow off. It is not one to dilute. And we are trying our best to not do either. But it takes efforts on home's part to make sure that kids are showing up as much as possible. So there you have it. When we speak in a real Zoom session, I want to speak specifically about your student, the nuts and bolts of grades, and based on my observations of your North Star specifically, I want to talk about the strengths and some of the improvement points that I see in that ongoing forward. I want to thank you very much, parents, for watching this ahead of time. You've done your homework. You get an A+. We'll see you at conferences. Bye-bye.